Hi everyone, it's Christian back here with another episode of What Is This Weapon? And today I've got this thing here for you, which is called the Scotti Lee Enfield, which has probably already got a good few of you scratching your heads at the moment, but we'll get to that later. This is based on the Scotti system, so it's a system of self-loading rifle developed in Italy in the 1930s, and that is originally used in the Scotti Model 10 rifle, which we have one of right here. But we may show you that another day. This is more all about what's going on in front of me here. But for a good idea of what's going on inside this rifle, there's a lot of complicated taking apart here. I would highly recommend you go and watch Ian at Forgotten Weapons video on the Scotti Model X, just to get an idea of the mechanism that's going on inside here, because it's fundamentally the same thing. So the story of this rifle goes back to actually the First World War. It was originally designed and made as a pattern 1914 Enfield. Specifically, this one was made by Winchester, so it's a W. And then shortly after the war, it would have also been fitted with these fine adjust rear sights here, which just gives it a bit more fine adjustment for sniping duties, because these were, or the P14s were renowned for their accuracy, being a Mauser-style weapon. So going on from there, it was then actually sent over to Italy by the War Office at the request of a certain company which was manufacturing the Scotti rifle, which is actually an interesting story there. The request was made around 1937, and the War Office, well, the request was for 2 rifles to be sent over for conversion to the Scotti system, or should I say, attempted conversion. The idea there would be that the Scotti company would convert the rifle to use their system and then potentially be able to carry out that work on a larger scale, assuming that the War Office was happy with the result. So 2 P14s were sent out, and this is the result. This was sent back around 1939-40. There isn't actually a very firm date of when it came back to the UK, but nonetheless the War Office did receive this, and well, it basically works like a Scotti. So just to give an idea, in case you don't go and watch Ian's video, the Scotti works as a self-loader with a short-stroke gas piston, which is inside here. So there's a gas port somewhere around here on the underside of the barrel, and that bleeds gas off after every shot, which then is fed back to a short-stroke piston, and that piston then actually wraps around the magazine here, as opposed to going like through it or underneath it. So that way you can have a decent sized magazine. And then it strikes an extension of the bolt at the back here. The bolt then unlocks, and it's got a rotary head here. And so that head rotates. You might just be able to see it there. It's a bit stiff on this one. But it then comes all the way back. And now on a normal Scotti, this would actually be where the bolt stops, because the Scotti is an open bolt system. But for some reason, which I can't fathom or find any information on for this one, it's actually a closed bolt system. And so pressing the trigger only dry fires the weapon. So it's an interesting rifle, this one. It was subjected to testing by the War Office when it was received. And, well, it wasn't good. For starters, parts broke pretty much immediately. One of them was a hold open for the bolt inside here. That hold open was designed so that when it's on empty, when the magazine is empty, you can take your standard British 5-round charger clip and use that to load, and then you can knock the bolt forwards. That broke immediately, so in order to load this now, you need to hold it open with the other hand. It's a bit of a clumsy operation. Aside from that, the extractor broke, and also up here, the fore end broke, so this lifts off just about there. There should have been a lip there underneath this nose cap. That broke as well. So it's got some damage, but that is all original to the trials process for this. So yeah, it failed miserably pretty much, and so the initial testing was planned to be what was going to be everything for this rifle. However, it was then realized by certain individuals at the Board of Ordnance that the original Scotti Model X uses lubricated ammunition, and for this one, they weren't actually trying that out at all. They were just using standard British Service 303 ball ammunition. And so when the Chief Inspector of Small Arms who had tested this wrote back and said, can we please have instructions for disposal, the Board of Ordnance went back and said, actually, can you try and fix it, and if you can, give it a go with the lubricated ammo. So they did, and the result came back in February of 1941. So they're still testing this whilst the war's going on. And yeah, it was no better. In fact, the lubricated ammo supposedly made it even worse. So it didn't go particularly well there. From then, at the end of that report, the request was then, can you now please give us instructions for disposal of this rifle? So I think it's clear that the Chief Inspector of Small Arms was quite fed up with it at this point. And you can't blame him. After all, there was a war on. He had more important things to work on. So just to illustrate some of the problems that they had with this thing, if I open it up here and try to show the camera, the biggest problem they had was parts breakage. And one of those parts, you might be able to see it in here, there's a very small slot just beneath the bolt head, which about there should be covered up. But if I put it all the way back, that is where the bolt stop should be, so that you can load this quite easily on an empty magazine. But of course, what ended up happening was they would use the platform here in the magazine to retain the bolt, because that part broke immediately. And so they had to use this, and so there's actually quite a lot of wear on this part, which is noted in the reference material. And so it's interesting to see this original damage from their experiences with this rifle, but it also just goes to show that it's, well, how it managed to fail pretty miserably. And in order to illustrate that, I think it would be a good idea to quote directly from the source material. And so, a brief firing test was carried out, and function and accuracy are poor. And I think the most defining quote of all this would be, no good points have been discovered, and the bad points are as follows. A, functioning, B, liability to breakages, C, difficulty in complete stripping. You get the idea. And the final assessment of this rifle was that the reconstructed rifle, because their view was that this is so changed from the original Pattern 14 Enfield that it's not actually a conversion, it's just a rebuild. The reconstructed rifle shows so many defects and its performance is so poor that it could never become a weapon fit for service use, which War Office comments are usually quite damning, but that is particularly brutal. So after hearing all that, you're probably still wondering why I called it at the start the Scotti Lee Enfield. And that wasn't a mistake. It's actually called that if I show you on this side. It is marked up Scotti Lee Enfield just there. So that is its actual name from the Scotti company. And as far as I can tell, that's actually from a slight mistake or miscommunication between the two companies involved, the War Office and the Scotti company. So the original request from Scotti was for 2 short magazine Lee Enfield rifles. And then the War Office went, of course, we'll give you 2 Pattern 14 rifles. And so I can only assume that when these 2 P14s arrived at the factory in Brescia, the foreman would have said, these must be those Lee Enfields we've been waiting for. And they took it from there. And one of the documents we've had on this rifle actually has the original P14 listed by a strange Italian designation as the Lee Enfield model of 1919 7.7mm, which is bizarre. But that seems to be where the name from this comes from. So Scotti with the lost in translation Lee Enfield. So of course, if you've been watching these videos by now, you know the story about Britain and the self-loading rifles of the 1930s. Nothing was adopted at that time, and the No. 4 rifle was put into production for the Second World War. And in the end, Britain's first self-loading rifle came in 1957 in the form of the SLR. So this was done, as the War Office say in their notes, purely out of interest, really, just to see if there was any possible way of converting some surplus stock rifles that hadn't been used since the First World War to some kind of new useful system of working. So that was the end of it for this rifle, and it ended up being put into storage and into the MOD pattern room, and so that's how it made its way here to the armories. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope that you found that at least somewhat interesting. Of course, we are the Royal Armouries. We have 3 sites here in the UK. Feel free to visit any of them here in Leeds, or also down at Fort Nelson or the Tower of London. It's free entry, and so do come and see some of the really cool stuff that we've got on display. Also, we are a charity, so if you want to donate or if you can help in any way, do check the links below and have a look and see if there's any way you can help us out. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching.